welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 2-game ALDS Division Series MLB slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Excited to get into the breakdown. Back to the traditional format. We've done a couple showdown slates back-to-back. Now we have a 2-gamer. We're going to get that traditional format on DraftKings and FanDuel, so we'll get to go back to our traditional builds here that I oftentimes talk about throughout the whole entire MLB season. If you missed my content throughout the season, well, you arrived at the right time because we're going to get you the picks to get you in that green. Don't forget to stay tuned till the end of the video for my home run call of the day. Now that we're not forced to just pick from one game either, that's going to be nice. Back to the old KJK DFS way to get that home run call on the board, hopefully. And if you are interested in getting very serious about Mlb Dfs for this postseason, I do offer an Mlb Dfs premium package. You get access to all my sheets. I know the MLB season is winding down, but I also do NFL DFS content and NBA DFS content. So if you want to hop on, I just released a NFL DFS showdown slate video for Thursday Night Football as well, and I'll have my Friday video up to give you guys my final picks. And then if you want to go ahead and check out the premium package, all that fun stuff will be linked below in the description of this video as well. And let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. So, as always, I'd like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on the slate today is going to be Mr. Lance Lynn, taking on the Houston Astros, though, which is a less than ideal matchup, especially from an upside aspect. This Houston Astros team just really does not strike out. Looking at my team hitting data sheet as far as their K rate overall against right-handed pitching on the season, you can see they were the very best team against right-handed pitching as far as not striking out. Only a 19.4% K rate against those righties. Not exactly ideal for the guy with the top K rate. If you want to go to him, sure. He does have a 29.1% K rate against righties, a 25.8% K rate against lefties. And so we do prefer to target him against very right-handed heavy lineups, if at all possible, because his strikeout rate does spike against those righties. But the Houston Astros have a nice blend, and as mentioned, they really don't strike out a lot. When you're looking at the salary for Lance Lynn over on DraftKings, he comes in at 7.5, third highest priced guy on FanDuel. He's the highest priced guy on FanDuel. I feel like that's just an easy fade. I'm not looking to go to the guy that has the worst matchup as far as from a strikeout rate. That's the most expensive on FanDuel. That's a no for me. So as far as pitching, it's probably a pass for me on him. Eduardo Rodriguez taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. They were a team we targeted with left-handed pitching all season long, but they made some acquisitions mid-season to definitely get a lot better against lefties with the addition of Nelson Cruz, etc. Eduardo Rodriguez does have a 27.4% K overall with 11.7 swinging strike rate, a 25.8% K rate to righties, and a 33.6% K rate to lefties. And as mentioned, the Rays do have a pretty decent K rate against lefties, but they have made some improvements. Wander Franco getting the call up. They have Randy Arozarena still, Nelson Cruz, Yandy Diaz, Mike Zunino rakes off lefties, Manuel Margot. So they're not quite as bad as they were during the season, so I just want to make that known because if we go to my team hitting data sheet here and look at the teams that strike out most against lefties, I'm sure the Rays will be up there. Yes, they're the third worst team from a K rate against lefties, and I still think they're a valid team to target, especially that they're in the Trop. Looking at these ballparks here and how the factor in the impact on play, Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay, which is where this Boston Red Sox and Tampa Bay Rays game is going to be played. And this one is one of the best the best pitching environments in baseball. In the dome, the ball doesn't really travel as far. The dimensions play pretty friendly to pitchers, so just keep that in mind. That's also going to be a plus here. Definitely a more friendly pitching environment than Houston. And Eduardo Rodriguez could definitely be a viable play, especially considering that he's the cheapest on DraftKings. He's 6.7 over on FanDuel. He's also the cheapest at 8.4. Don't hate it, don't love it. Just know with Eduardo Rodriguez, K-Rod as I like to call him, you're probably going to get all or nothing. The guy tends to go out there and either he'll put on a really good performance for you or he's getting blown up in the first inning and he doesn't know what hit him. I could see either way. He does give up quite a bit of slugging. We'll talk about that when we get into the bats portion on this after we're done with the pitching. Shane McClanahan taking on the Boston Red Sox. This is probably one of my top guys. I mean, Lance McCullers Jr. is an interesting option as well, but Boston Red Sox do probably strike out the most out of the four teams we're talking about right here. As far as the Red Sox are concerned, they do have quite a bit of guys with high K rates in their lineup. Kyle Schwarber off lefties, he strikes out like 30% of the time. Bobby Dahlbeck, Hunter Renfroe, Devers, Bogarts, all 20+% of the time as far as strikeouts. And McClanahan has pretty good stuff. Really the only thing that's been keeping me from targeting him most of the season has been his pitch count issues. They oftentimes have been pulling him right around like mid-80s pitches. It's the postseason. He could be pulled a little bit early still, but this kid has good stuff. He does have good strikeout rate stuff, and like I said, I think the matchup's pretty appealing here. A little less scary than some of the other ones we talked about. He's great ground ball, fly ball stuff. He's the top swinging strike rate on the slate with a 14.8 swinging strike rate, 26.7% K rate to righties, and a 29.9% K rate to lefties for McClanahan. So very solid across the board for him, and no issues with you going to him. And lastly, Lance McCullers Jr. taking on the Chicago White Sox team, who does have their fair strikeouts as well. Pulling up my team hitting data sheet here as far as their K rate on the season against right-handed pitching. We can see the Chicago White Sox kind of middle of the pack. I mean, they weren't exactly terrible. Overall, the 22.8% K overall against righties, a 22.4% K rate. So it's not as if they're really striking out that much there. The Boston, same thing. I mean, they only have 23% K rate. It's the postseason, guys. It's the best of the best. Oftentimes, it's not like we're going to be able to target the Detroit Tigers on these slates. I just like to point out the small differences when we can. 27% K rate overall, 11.6% swinging strike rate, great ground ball, fly ball stuff for him with a 28.7% K rate to righties and a 25.4% K rate to lefties. So McCullers does have a much higher K rate against righties. We do prefer to target him against right-handed heavy lineups if at all possible. And the Chicago White Sox do have a pretty right-handed heavy lineup. A lot of their top hitters at the top, Tim Anderson, Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, a lot of those guys are righties. Towards the bottom of the order, they switch it up. Multiple switch hitters in Yasmani Grandal, Moncada, Luis Garcia, Cesar Hernandez, and they got Gavin Sheath, the lefty, at the bottom as well. But I think this could be a great spot for Lance McCullers. He is a 134 favorite. Both him and McClanahan are the favorites on this slate, so keep that in mind. We, of course, want the win for our pitchers if at all possible. And those are the guys you're going to have to be picking between here. Then, obviously, a big part of this for me is going to be roster construction. Now, one-offs are a thing. I always say, though, I prefer to fully stack if at all possible. And if you're going to be fully stacking a team, you might not necessarily be able to play their pitcher. And it's only a 4-game slate, so that's interesting. You're probably going to be playing a one-off. Like, ideally, I'd want to play on DraftKings. Let's say I'm pitching McClanahan and McCullers. So obviously I would like to stack up a full stack of, let's say I want to do a full stack as well of their teams, Tampa Bay and Houston. I'm going to have a difficult time doing that. I don't think it's possible to build a lineup like that without having at least one-off, which is a little unfortunate, but I would still maximize your upside, do a full stack except for that one-off. That'd be my advice there. We'll get into a little bit of a lineup build, but transitioning over to bats, as always, I like to sort my sheet by Sierra, skill and our active ERA, figure out the guys that are worse on the slate. And, I mean, it's the playoffs. We don't really have any guys that are too bad here, but we can look at the major stats and splits for each guys. Lance McCullers, honestly, he doesn't have any weaknesses across the board outside of his walk rate to left-handed hitting. He's really good. 300 slugging to righties, a 350 slugging to lefties. Nothing that's really standing out to me. As far as from a pitch data aspect, I do always like to go ahead and break that down for Mr. McCullers, what he likes to go to against this Chicago White Sox team. He'll go to a slider against righties 35% of the time. Really likes going to the slider, and then he mostly goes to a sinker against those righties, and he's very reliant on his curveball against lefties. So it's mainly sinker, curveball against lefties, mainly sinker slider against righties. So as far as the righties are concerned, in the sinker ball, who fares well against that? Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez both hit that pitch very well. And those are the guys we'll be looking to from the right-handed side of the plate. As far as how they fare against the slider, though, I mean, both of those guys, Eloy Jimenez does look pretty good. So Eloy Jimenez would be the guy that's my favorite option from the right-handed side of the plate for this Chicago White Sox team. He's got a bunch of power as well. We know with Eloy Jimenez, I mean, the guy can definitely rake. As far as pulling up my hot hitter StatCast data tool here and figuring out who is popping off as far as barrels in these games. Not seeing anyone really at the top of the list for the Chicago White Sox here as I'm scrolling up and down. So, that doesn't make or break a play, but I just always like to bring that up. If he's at the top of the league in barrels for the season, that can go a long way. But it does look like Eloy Jimenez is going to profile the best for sure from the left-hand side of the plate. And as far as from the right-hand side of the plate. And as far as on the left-hand side of the plate, who mashes the curveball, because that's the pitch he's most reliant on, it's going to be Yasmani Grandal. So Yasmani Grandal, 5 and 6 for the White Sox are definitely going to be 4 and 5. Yasmani Grandal, Eloy Jimenez are definitely going to be two of my top guys that I'm looking to target against Lance McCullers, would be my point there. Lance Lynn taking on Houston. He does have some ground ball, fly ball issues, mostly against, both sides of the plate, honestly. He doesn't give up much slugging. A 303 slugging to righties, a 375 slugging to lefties. So does give up a worse slugging to lefties. Is a little bit worse in the ground ball, fly ball category as well, only allowing a ground ball at 32% clip against lefties. So with Lance Lynn, I'm definitely going to prefer to target him with left-handed bats, and we know the Houston Astros definitely do have a few really big ones. Jordan Alvarez, Michael Brantley, Kyle Tucker, all great hitters here. So I definitely would be looking to them for sure in this one. We know Jordan Alvarez has a bunch of power as far as from a pitching aspect and pitch repertoire. What Lance Lynn's most reliant on, he goes to the fastball quite often, on average about a 92 to 93 mile an hour fastball. He'll go to the cutter, and that's pretty much it. He's pretty much a fastball cutter guy. He'll throw the sinker in there as well, which they're all pretty much fastball pitches with different movements. So Lance Lynn, as far as the 92 to 93 mile an hour fastball, I mean, this whole Houston Astros lineup looks really good, but especially Jordan Alvarez. He has a 333 ISO against that pitch. Michael Brantley hits it well. Altuve, Bregman, Yulieski Gurriel, not exactly the best fastball hitters. Jake Myers at the bottom of the order, Kyle Tucker, Carlos Correa. So a lot of guys really do fare well against that pitch as far as the secondary pitch and the cutter. And who we're looking to there, Jordan Alvarez once again mashes it. Kyle Tucker mashes that pitch as well. So the other lefty outfielder looking very good here against Lance Lynn. Michael Brantley fares well against it. So, and then as far as the sinker is concerned, the Houston Astros actually really don't hit the sinker all that well. The best guy on this team would be Jordan Alvarez once again. Carlos Correa also fares well against that pitch. So, I mean, Jordan Alvarez by far profiles the best here. He's the lefty. We mentioned, Lynn's ability to give it up. And then as far as the ballpark's concerned, in Houston, how that plays down that right field line to those lefties that like to pull the ball, we always like to go to that. And it's not the most ideal spot in the world. We definitely prefer targeting the left field line for the right-handed batters. They can tuck it inside that pole with that short porch to left. But it's not terrible either. And let's be honest, when you're targeting a guy like Jordan Alvarez, you can hit the ball about 500 feet. So we don't really care. So definitely like the lefties on Houston. I like some of the righties as well. I like Houston as a stack overall. And then when you're looking at my bullpen data sheet as far as my top bullpens and the hard hit percentage and all that stuff, the Chicago White Sox really don't have a very good bullpen here compared to some of these other teams in the postseason. And the Houston Astros could definitely take advantage of that. As far as the hard hit percentage, xFIP-wise, they do grade out pretty good. I will say second best team as far as xFIP is concerned, but I do like to take a pretty deep look at the hard contact metrics and make sure that those align with the teams that I'm targeting, because a lot of times the barrel percentage, the hard hit rate, that'll kind of expose whether these teams have really been dominant or not. So, but yeah, I mean, most of these teams have pretty decent bullpens overall. But anyways, Eduardo Rodriguez taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. His ground ball, fly ball stuff really isn't the best. He gives up a 437 slugging to righties, a 439 slugging to lefties. By far the worst statistics on the slate, and definitely going to have interest in the Tampa Bay Rays stack. And we know the Tampa Bay Rays have a few guys in particular that really mash off lefties. I mean, Nelson Cruz, anytime he plays a left-handed pitcher, the guy's just pretty much a freaking lock. He's really good off lefties. Been doing it for years. Comes in at 3.9 on DraftKings, and we know what this guy's capable of. As far as how he grades out against Mr. Eduardo Rodriguez's repertoire, I guarantee before I even pull up the numbers here, they're going to be good, because that's just Nelson Cruz against lefties. Eduardo Rodriguez, on average, he goes in the fastball quite often. It's a 92 to 93 mile an hour fastball, and Nelson Cruz matches the fastball off lefties. Surpriser. He has a 457 ISO with a 531 WOBA. That's very good. And then as far as the secondary pitches for Eduardo Rodriguez, he's really reliant on the changeup for the most part. He'll go to the fastball cutter as well, but that's pretty much just another fastball pitch. And the changeup, Nelson Cruz matches as well. 359 ISO, no surprises. Mike Zunino as well, the catcher spot might be, well, I say it'll be a sneaky play. Probably not, honestly. On a two-game slate, you'll probably get a bunch of ownership here because he mashes, and there's not really any other good catchers. So, but Mike Zunino is going to be a smash play here, taking on Eduardo Rodriguez. The guy just absolutely mashes off left-handed pitching. As far as my split leading board, looking at the guys that lead the league against lefties from an ISO category here. In this sheet, I'd be very surprised if it's not Mike Zunino towards the top of this list. As we scroll here, Nelson Cruz pops right here. You can see he had a 377 WOBA with a 222 ISO. Randy Arozarena also pops as well. So keep that in mind. He had a 233 ISO. And if someone else is seeing Zunino on my screen, it wouldn't surprise me. I can't seem to find him. But regardless, we know Mike Zunino matches lefties. I can guarantee it. He's in a good spot here. And then from a pitch repertoire aspect, as far as how he fares against this stuff, I already said he absolutely matches the changeup off lefties and the fastball. He absolutely matches as well. The 400 plus ISO against both sides. Mike Zunino's a great play, especially at a weak catcher position. So, and then you got Randy Rosarina I mentioned, and this rest of this Rays lineup, you can definitely stack up. Wander Franco, Nelson Cruz, Yandy Diaz, and then even Rodriguez's ability against lefties. We said he gives up the worst slugging on the slate to both sides. So I definitely like the Rays stack, and I think the Red Sox have a pretty bad bullpen as well compared to some of the other teams. And then McClanahan taking on the Red Sox. He's really, really good overall, except for against righties. That's really his biggest weakness. Lefties really great. Righties, he has a 391 slugging, 303 WOBA, 44.2% ground ball rate. He's still a solid pitcher overall, but if I'm looking to go to someone on this Red Sox team, it's going to be the right-handed power and the guys that hit well off lefties, and that's going to be Enrique Hernandez, Xander Bogaerts, Hunter Renfroe, Bobby Dalbec. Those guys would be my favorite by far. And of course, you can throw in Kyle Schwarber and Rafael Devers in your lineups as well to get different, maybe lefty on lefties. But McClanahan overall, he's really reliant on the fastball slider combination. It's pretty much all he throws. On average, that fastball is going to be 96 plus, so he does have some pretty good gas as far as who profiles the best on Boston against the pitch. Pulling up their hitters here, 96 plus miles an hour. Hunter Renfroe by far the top option when it comes to that pitch. He has a 364 ISO with a 497 WOBA. We know Hunter Renfroe absolutely matches left-handed pitching, so that makes sense. So he's going to be my favorite option by far off McClanahan, I can tell you that much. And then against the slider, as far as who fares well against that, Xander Bogaerts and Hunter Renfroe, as well as Bobby Dalbec. So those three are really my favorite options here. Xander Bogaerts and Bobby Dalbec both hit lefties very well as well. And those three going to be my favorite options on the Boston side by far. If you're stacking them up, try to get them in your stacks. And yeah, that is my overall breakdown of this two-game ALDS Division Series slate. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Mike Zunino taking on Eduardo Rodriguez. We had mentioned his hard contact issues against right-handed hitting with a 437 slugging, giving up a 334 WOBA. And Mike Zunino absolutely mashes lefties here on the season. Mike Zunino has a 444 ISO against left-handed pitching. And when you're looking at the repertoire for Eduardo Rodriguez, very reliant on the fastball changeup combination, and Zunino crushes both of those pitches. Against the fastball off lefties, a 480 ISO with a 510 WOBA, 54.55% hard contact rate, and that's over an 11 batted ball event sample size. And then as far as the changeup, no worries either, because Mike Zunino features a 459 ISO with a 419 WOBA. Ridiculous numbers against left-handed pitching, ridiculous numbers against Eduardo Rodriguez's repertoire, and I think he launches one tonight. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Mike Zunino, get him in your lineups, and that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. Appreciate anyone that leaves a like on the video, subscribes, leaves a comment, all the support. Wish you guys the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.